The Bodhisattvas and the outside doctrines, right view and wisdom has a different opinion on ourselves. Well, in Buddhism, the wisdom, what is wisdom in Buddhism? Well, to say a little more easily, regarding the absence of I, when my thoughts are idle, when my thought is same as the absence of I, that there is no idea that everything, then there is no idea that anything has its own true nature. Therefore, everything changes. So, well, even if it's something very tiny, if you want that not to change, then that's attachment. And saying that there is something that doesn't change is it's a wrong idea. It's a dark idea. So everything changes. There's nothing that doesn't change. Along with that idea, if you believe in that idea, then we say you have realized. Well, everything is a phenomenon that has been caused by the cause and also its consequence. And doing that is also wisdom. And all of them, well, if you ask what is the theory on which the dependent arising has been formed, then also saying that it's the answer to that is the cause and the effect, and that is also a wisdom. And because of that, if we ask what is happiness, then even the form of happiness doesn't exist, but even the form of suffering doesn't exist. Even the suffering doesn't exist as in forms, and therefore even the suffering, to say, well, it's just a phenomenon that has been caused also from the dependent arising. And so in Buddhism, we always say it has been awakened. It's awake. So in other way, from the suffering that seem like the one that you get in your dreams, we say you have awakened. Then if you also ask, then is there a special phenomenon of awakening? Then that is the end of suffering. The Nirvana is a phenomenon of ending the suffering. But there's nothing special that we say is happiness. But people, they want they try to stimulate themselves, and in getting away from it, they find it as happiness. And that's why you have to realize that it is void, it doesn't have form, it changes, and it moves very fast. So the thing called wisdom is similar to that. The outside doctrines and also the internal doctrines. In other way, what is different from the path of Bodhisattva? So the different thing is, if I say a little more strictly, the common thing that we so call as Nayana, well, on Buddhist television, this is often spoken about by quite a lot of scholars. They keep saying that the Mahayana, it is a Buddhism that is informed in the 1st century. They keep saying some things like that, even without evidence. Well, the Diamond Sutra, they say Diamond Sutra has been written by someone, just like how a novel is written. Then all the sutras, all the scriptures are all teachings, where they are very petty sayings. But in Hinayana, although they claim for the absence of I, they have not been able to reveal its completeness, and so they were not able to speak about the absence of I, but they kept revealing that there is something that remains. In Hinayana, they said even the space is something that remains. And also in other religions, they also say that there is also consciousness that remains. If you argue about its origins, then you can realize that it is not revealing the voidness of Buddhism. So, if you look at it from the point of view of the Mahayana, then Buddhism is already a half Buddhism. So it's very simple to differentiate between the outside doctrine and Buddhism, whether it is absence of I or whether it is whether you believe that there is something. Those religions which believe in God, they always believe that there is something, someone who is absolute. Although they believe in it, they have no proof about it. But if you look at it, they're also doing idolization at one point of time. So from its beginning, if you ask what's the feature that distinguishes Buddhism from other religions, the other religions, they believe whether it is the creator or the god of destruction or whether it is spirits or something, they always believe that there is something and that doesn't change. They also believe it is similar to what Hinayana and also in other beliefs has claimed that there is something that remains. It's not very different from it. But then how is Buddhism different from others? Well, essentially it's different in the terms that that it's the absence of I. Dalai Lama has also repeatedly spoken. Even in Tibet, after they were even in Tibet, there are many things that were the warps of Buddhism, but they are not actually Buddhisms. They also do the same. They also listen to the mantras. They also offer, and they also use the bells. But in the end, there's one thing different. There's something different. In the way that, like, if there is nothing that is eternal, then how can it turn out to be? But then we say that is not the Buddhism. Those people who follow the system, they could also say, isn't that also Buddhism? And isn't this also Buddhism? It's easy to say that, but however, those people who believe that there is something that's eternal or there's something that remains, they are not Buddhism. So that's why, as Dalai Lama has also said, this scientific area, Buddhism is the only religion that can go along with this scientific era. Even the science, even if they go through so much analysis, they have not yet revealed the thing that is eternal, and that will also not be found even in future. Why? Because it doesn't exist, and discovering something that doesn't exist is impossible unless until you misunderstand. So the practice of Bodhisattva, even the practice of Bodhisattva, if you take into the notion that you you are eternal or you exist, then that is also wrong, and that is also not the proper bodhisattva, and that is also not the proper practice of bodhisattva. Therefore, bodhisattva, for example, if you say when they are offering, when they're doing the practice of dana, well, you believe that if you give to others, you believe that there will be merits, but there will be no merit. Well, if I say this, some people might question, then why do you believe in Buddhism? It means that as much as you have given to others, your greediness disappears, and so you feel more comfortable. It doesn't come to you. It doesn't come back to you. And so since you're not expecting something, it makes you feel peaceful, and also it gives you comfort. Well, can you accept such a story? Well, it's difficult to accept those stories. Well, when Buddha was speaking about them in his Diamond Sutra, he also said he also asked one people about 500 years later, won't they be scared and frightened? Even at the time, if they have beliefs, then he's not the one who only met one or two Buddhas. Well, think about it. If you remember meeting Buddha, have you met him? You're not sure? Then I believe there are two reasons why you're not scared or why you're not surprised. First, maybe you don't understand what it means. The other one is you're already a saint. Well, it's either or. It's either of the two. Which side do you think you are? Number one. Only if you do that, you become the Bodhisattva. If you don't do that, and if you say it's number two, then I would have said, oh, that's very petty. Because they always believe in something that something is eternal, that something exists. So it is not the wisdom that has completely understood the wisdom. If think about the most beautiful feature of human. Well, I'll give you a simple question. Well, is 50% of you getting it? Even if someone is trying to kill you, if you don't get angry, and if you have no grudges against the person, and if you have no plan of vengeance, that's one path. And believing that if for Buddha I would even kill you, which one is correct? I'm sure you have asked yourself the question, if I say number two, what would be the consequence? The answer was not very straight. So by believing Buddhism, we want to live in a more beautiful way. And those people who believe so, if you want the public massacre, is that a beautiful act or is it a wrong thing? Well, we have a lot of them. Why are you doing something that is beyond understanding? You still say that's the truth. Why? That's because of your wrong idea that there is something eternal. isn't it? So for a human, when they live on, Buddha said living the life of monk is the most beautiful form of living the life. And that's why until the end of his life, he never gave up the living as a monk. And so when people ask Dalai Lama, who are you? Dalai Lama says, I'm a monk. I'm a mere monk. It's a beautiful form. Well, but it's very distant with wisdom, because it has its own stubbornness with self. The form of the absence of I. But in Korea, you don't even understand the absence of I well too. And well, the word that you use for the absence of I is quite misunderstood in Korean. Here, the absence of self, it refers as to say that there's nothing that we can claim as ours. There's nothing that we can still say is our state. It is not the form of losing your consciousness. Where some people has also said while doing something that's similar to the Muslim the meditation, wearing the skirt and taking the rounds, and they say you fall into the state where you're not very clear, but you're just dizzy about it. That's different. Well, if you're not able to differentiate between that and in the state of trance, then it's different. Well, the absence of I and tantra in a trance is very different. And Buddhism, you have to start off with understanding that it's completely absent. Well, since you listen to it often, you start to understand, right? So it has become a little better than the beginning. In the beginning, you are unsure what has been spoken. So it's a far away road from wisdom. So they cannot gain enlightenment. If they don't achieve the absence of self, then they cannot attain enlightenment. And we say gaining enlightenment or reaching nirvana, it is we are free from ourselves and we are free from something that we have been stubborn about. The nirvana itself is, it actually means we are free from our restrictions. From what? From the stubbornness that has been centered around I. Why? Because our greediness and also the foolish thoughts and also the anger and agony, it all started from our concentration to self. And that's why if we get rid of them, then we say we are free from them. In other way, we say we have attained nirvana and enlightenment. And that is the essence of Buddhist teaching. There is nothing more. This is the essence. Even getting rid of the greediness, it starts off from absence of I. And having the greediness, it starts from your own greediness. Whatever it is, or even if there's something that you rely on, and if there's something that you believe that you want to rely on during your life, that becomes as like your Atman. And also people say if you have found your Atman, you gain enlightenment. But people lie about them. That's a great lie. because the Shravaka is far away from the great compassion, and it doesn't have its own means, so it's quite far away from gaining enlightenment. The Arahant, the all sentient beings that go through the Samsara, well, what is the Samsara is just like people who are floating away at the time of flood. Where some people they are hit in the rocks, and some people they fall into somewhere deep, and where the foam that when we're being flooded down, it's just like the time of samsara. But Hinayana, they say, oh well, the person is floating away. I should be free from the water that's floating away. And in Mayana, it jumps into the water, but they're not just blindly jumping in, but they do have their own method. They have method to save the other person, and that method is six paramita. That method is six paramita. And they don't have it in Hinayana, and that's why they're different. So if the Mahayana practitioner, if he has good karmas from his previous life, then was it Zika virus this time? Well, it was on news, and World Health Center, they're building the vaccine. It's going to take about like an year, and they also made a criticism. The reason why the medicines are not built, not found soon, is it's because those viruses are developed in the third world countries, and so people don't even spend money on this to be cured. And also, if people who has a lot of money, if they get this disease, then the sons of those patients of the rich families, they would even just donate about like 100 millions. And so if there's Atman or so-called SI, even things like Zika virus, when they want to do something, they should have taken that the people without money, they're also suffering, so they should have tried to discover it. But then although we are eating that medicine, it's also quite funny. They are also people who knows only about money or cares only about money. Well, it's okay to be broadcasting them. Even they have to listen. It should be translated to English, and I hope people and those people working in those medicinal fields can listen, since they have already earned a lot of money. The vaccine or cure for the AIDS, the people who normally get them, it's people living in Africa or people without money. And if people without money are sick with them, then it takes a lot of time to build the vaccines. So Shravaka doesn't have the great compassion. Well, it has also been said that even if, especially like the Kriti Garba also has said that even if the Bodhisattva goes to hell, they will try to save people. it's dark, and so since there is darkness, they take their brightness and try to help people. They come like a flash. They come with a flash. And each door is closed just like prison. Well, he has the stick. That's like the key. Our keys are short, but the locks in hell is very thick. Locks in hell are very thick, and so they need that big sticks as keys. Well, that's also my interpretation. It's not there in the sutra. Well, from my own opinion, I think that's true. And also then, just like on Avalokitesvara, there is the flower crown, and so. But then, if they have like the long hair, it could also be having problem. So they wear like a scarf after shaving their head, and so having the keys and also with the flashes enter. Well, it's very simple, right? People who are stuck in the hell, even without light, just by looking at the flesh, they say it shines like a light from the heaven. So there's no arahant that goes to hell to save, and also there is no arahant of animals or heaven or even in suras. It's only humans. They're different. It's different. That's why in the Bodhisattvas of Mahayana, it's written in the way to Bodhisattva that those of you who wants to be Bodhisattva, what are the requirements? If there is something that we say that there is something I who is eternal, then you cannot become a bodhisattva, and you cannot say only human beings are bodhisattvas. So arahant, they are not bodhisattvas. You understand? The arahant is not a bodhisattva. Why? Because they believe that only humans can be so, and they are not able to understand what it means that needs to be only humans. That too, Bodhisattva saves all human beings or all sentient beings, and so you cannot say it's only you. We aspire for the Bodhisattva, and with that, we have the means of attaining it. Why didn't I see you for ages? Did you go to Canada? The answer says no. You know, as time goes, I come to know of more things. Where is the person who used to come with you? Seoul? She earning like 10 millions. So therefore, in order to, they're aspiring to enter into the enlightenment. Even arahant. They only concentrate in getting rid of the agni that they're facing. It's not for the all sentient beings. They don't have nirvana of different levels and also the complete nirvana. even the complete nirvana is completed through the practice of bodhisattva. That's why it's not possible with arahant. The way to bodhisattva requires you to have both means and also the wisdom. The wisdom is voidness here. And after you experience the voidness by people, if there is no means that leads to voidness, which is so peaceful, then it only remains as something that's returned to you. And that's why we complete the six paramitas. So if you have wisdom, but if there is no means, then that is not the wisdom. But even if you have no wisdom, then if you have means, then that is not the wisdom. The wisdom and means, they have to. When we say it reflects the other, it means it's helping the other. If you are not helping each other, we cannot bend our hand in the other way. If you say you cannot you cannot let go of your hand, it means you cannot open it. Like that, the wisdom and means, the two of them have to go together. If we are leading you to nirvana, when I don't have the means to lead you, that means by practicing nirvana, the virtues that accumulate, you have no thoughts of them. Well, it's also not easy to go and explain to someone about the things that you have learned. Do you explain a little? Well, I think it's more difficult for people living in Jeollanam-do because of how we explain things. So by accumulating the luck in our common everyday life, and if we have the power to distribute materials to others, then they would listen. Also, if I'm very well aware of the means, and if I have the ability to explain it in detail, then the other person would also listen. Isn't that so? So the wisdom and the means, they go together. They're like two wheels of a cart, and they're not different. The wisdom and means, it's just like the two wheels of a cart. They roll together. The wisdom and the means, they are not separate. So they try to enter into the nirvana of non-abiding. I explained about the nirvana of non-abiding many times. Just like around class, someone whose agony is completed at the state of samatha, although they have attained a nirvana where the samatha is complete, if you go through the samsara in order to save all sentient beings, but just like other lay people, they are not moved by they're not moved by the fate, but they're moved as per your motives, aspirations. And also, when we came and live in this world, if you move by karma, then even if it's monk, if you say if you say somewhere it pays better, then you'd go there. And also, if you go to Seoul, and if you could also want some high position, that's almost like you're moving as per your karma. Even if you're living now, if you're moving as per your karma, then that is well, if you want other sentient beings to be free from their agony, and if you move your time and also your location as per their for their benefit, then even in this life, you would be finding something that's better for others. So because you're moving as per your aspiration, you're not living your life as per your karma. Because you're not living as per your karma, if you say, oh well, I happened to migrate because my husband's office changed, that too, you're not moving as per your karma, but as per your husband's karma. And when I ask what about your studies, then they say, well, what can I do? From that form, where can you find the nirvana of non-abiding? You're just living your life as per the karma. So the Bodhisattvas, they aspire to live their life helping others, and they don't even remain. And also, although they have already practiced samatha, they don't even remain in samatha. And so, Bodhisattva doesn't remain anywhere. But for the betterment of sentient beings, they move like will. And that's why throughout their life, they become bodhisattvas, and until they complete this means, they continue with this act, and we call that a bodhisattva. Once again, bodhisattva requires both means and wisdom. And because of this, they don't even, well, there's nothing more to explain. Because of the power of the wisdom of voidness, because they have the wisdom, because it's not repeated with karma, they don't even fall into samsara. And also because of the power to save all sentient beings, because there's a strong will to save all sentient beings, they don't even fall into nirvana. Bodhisattva, after seeing someone who is in nirvana, what do we say? We say that's very unpleasant. For the betterment of all sentient beings, although you go through your own samsara, there is only the wish to help others, but just like other sentient beings, you're not following up with the way of samsara, but it is not samsara, although you are going through the samsara. And also, although you have achieved nirvana, it is not nirvana. So you're only pursuing the path that you can do for the betterment of all sentient beings. So if the sentient beings improve your life, you take that as your greatest hope. If the sentient beings can free themselves from each pain and each agony, I will take that as my own practice. If I if there's even one sentient being remaining who hasn't gained enlightenment, then I will not gain my own nirvana. And that also means that there will be not even a small piece remaining, but they will attain for betterment of everything. But after some time, there will be some box filled with water here, and which is made of stone. So once you come, put your phones inside there. So we pray that please not enter into nirvana, but come to us. Bodhisattva, please come to us again and lead us our path. And this is where this comes from. Well, once king dies, you pray that they don't come back, because once king comes back, he will take back everything, and you don't know what they're going to do. So when the king dies, you make sure that they cannot come back, and you do so many things, and sometimes you wax it, and you also make the coffin with rocks, and the coffins they're like 2-3 layers, and you have also nailed it, and you have also put stones outside, and on top of that, once you go to the graves of the kings, you can see they're so high, and you can see that many people have stepped on it, and even if the king has not died, the king will be sent to death. And since the king had placed with the power, you pray that they don't come back. But there are also people who try to kill the kings who are alive and wants to be their own king. And once the king comes back, then it really causes headache. So the stronger the king is, they make the grave bigger and stronger, and they also put a lot of things inside so that they don't want to come out again. So, but when you cremate the body of a bodhisattva, you burn it fast so that they come back fast. And you cannot see a big grave of a bodhisattva, but you actually hope that they would come back soon. And and that's also done in unconsciousness. Well, it's a lie to say, since my dad is really great, I want to make a really big grave for him. That kind of thing is a lie. There are many times when the consciousness and subconsciousness, they act in an opposite way. Therefore, as it mentioned, to summarize the way of the Bodhisattva is two, which explains the means and also the wisdom. Where when we explain about the cart, we need two wheels, the right and the left wheel. That's means and wisdom. It has been told, and the name is really long. The best and the most natural the happiness. The great teaching that this stress about. The wisdom paramita is mother, and the means is like a father. The wisdom, the panya paramita is like mother. Among the six paramitas, we have the last sixth, the wisdom paramita, and they look after us like a mother, how they do, and that is the wisdom. And the means, they are like the father. It's spoken in Yumagyong. And also, what is enlightenment and what is bondage for a bodhisattva? Without means, if you give everything to all sentient beings, that is the bondage. Even if you say you're going to save all sentient beings, you have no means. Then what is it like? You just have a baby and you have no money. And when your husband runs away, so you just sit and you're trying to bring up the child. And it's very difficult. It's just that you have the baby biologically, but you don't have the basic qualities to be a mother. How are you going to teach your child, and how are you going to protect your child, and how are you going to feed your child? None of them are there. Without means, if you only say you're going to save all sentient beings, everyone can do that. Well, after the prayer, you pray a lot, but after the prayer, inside your heart, you're talking about you're wishing for your husband, your children, but only in your only verbally you're praying for everything. You're hoping that everyone gains enlightenment together with you, but in there you can find no power at all. What do you actually aspire for? You want your husband, you want your children to be happy. Well, even after many prayers, you say you are going to save all sentient beings. But it is not like you are just taking some like lettuce out of a soup. But think about it. Do you at least have money to save other sentient beings? Or do you have the strength of the teaching to awaken people? Or are you following the disciplines well? And so once you speak to others, do they really take your opinion respectedly? Well, when there is no actual means, well, you never know if they really come up with means later, but by planting the pure and also good seeds in your next life and also the life after that. Think about it. When I have such thoughts, if I have like 10, hundreds, thousand millions, even if I have so much money, well, I'm not even going to use that money. And I can still live my life without any money. And I have already so many places to spend that money. but I'm not getting the 1,000,000,000. And that's a problem. So this means bodhisattvas, they have to try to build up these means. So if you follow the discipline well, then people even listen when you talk. But when you don't follow the discipline, well, to say if your friend, if you drink a lot every day, and if you tell your friend not to drink, do you think they will listen to you when you're always drinking? So the means, the being generous and dhyana and samadhi, upholding precepts, persevering patience, the regular self-discipline, all of them are means. And for bodhisattvas, you need means and also wisdom. Through the means, you're going to save all sentient beings, and having that kind of thoughts and practicing them, we call them Mahayana, the big cart. Everyone is going on the same path. This is a path that everyone could be alive together. Another way, Mahayana is something that everyone will be alive together. It's not like anyone is put out, excluded, but we're trying to follow the path that everyone can be alive. And we ourselves experience a voidness where I have gotten rid away my greediness, and also it is important to keep building up. That means here they has used the word bondage or bondage as of bodhisattva. If you don't build up the means, and if you keep doing something, well, that's the agony of the bodhisattvas. If you build up each means, then the bodhisattva, they are also freed from their bondage. We say it's the enlightenment of bodhisattvas if they free the sentient beings with their means. If the bodhisattva has a great strength of means, well, we also pray when he's in famine, save the people with the rice, isn't it? So when that bodhisattva goes there, they could also be the leader of that area, or by going there, they could also become someone who teaches the practice. And with the power of the bodhisattva, the people who were suffering from starvation, they also disappears. Then what does the bodhisattva say? From the Bodhisattva says they have been freed from starvation, from the bondage of starvation. Then that becomes the freedom of the Bodhisattva. And the Bodhisattva could also say, now I feel at peace. And that is the Nirvana of the Bodhisattva. That's how it works. It's not happening because you yourself are trying only to serve yourself. Where in Amgyong, there's a story. There's a king who eats the dove, and every day he would always eat a dove. And so the chef is always bringing up the dove, the pigeon. And in order to acquire the pigeon, the Bodhisattva happened to take the form of the pigeon. So when they were taking the uh, pi- when they were taking the pigeon, they were always catching the fat and also very well-fed pigeons first. So the Shakyamuni Buddha, in his previous life, in order to save them, he went through the starvation. He did his fasting, and he was so skinny so that he could go through the roads in the prison. And later, when the king came to know about this, he let go of all the pigeons. He freed them. Even the situation where the pigeon has been caught and was put to death, and also the Bodhisattva freed the king from committing murder. So a Bodhisattva, by sacrificing themselves and benefiting the other, that is where they originate from. Without doing that, it leads to nowhere. And also, even the leaders, they would not even find their own peace. But from up above there, those people who are doing politics, when you look at politicians, don't laugh after you go home. You can laugh now. Well, from my opinion, there are so many people who sells people, but there are not many people who really wishes to work for the betterment of their citizens. It's very hard to see. My prophets, they only go after places where it benefits them. That's why it's loud. That's why it's loud. Is Nirvana or Bodhisattva if they free the common people with the means and wisdom. Without means, to say if you don't have 6 parameters as for Bodhisattva, this is their bondage. That's why we say in Hinayana they remain, because that's also a bondage. Well, when it's spoken like this, isn't it that it has all been explained? Is there anything more to talk about? What more is there to talk about? This theory, can you find any flaws in this theory? The wisdom which has the means, that is the enlightenment. Well, the means, they are like the methods. When you see someone floating down the water, if you don't have the means to save them, how miserable will it be? I cannot swim too, so if you jump in, you'll also be floating down. And the person is striving inside the water. And when you're just looking at it outside, and if you're just looking at it from afar, you have the respect for life, and you have the willingness to save, but you have no means, and it really breaks your heart. When there was a several ferry accident, well, everyone was wondering what they can do. They had to see about 300 something people dying.
거기에 고난이 주어지고 그렇게 훈련되어졌다라고 하는 사람들은 거기마저도 다 그냥
Even the people who has the authority over them and also who are trying to save them, they were not doing anything, and it really broke our heart.
그래서
So you need to possess the means. You need to have the means.
중생을 고통으로부터
You need to have the means to save sentient beings from their suffering.
내 이름만 불러도 내가
So the Bodhisattva says, only if you call out my name, I'll be there. It's not only the Avalokitesvara, but we also need to have that kind of thoughts.
우리가 그런 생각을 가지라는 것이야. 뭐 아주 너무 그냥 명료하게
This is spoken so clearly.
사실상
So actually, there is no even need to further describe this.
그래서 우리가
So if we don't have the wisdom of voidness, then although we say we are saving the other sentient beings, we also have the sense of I, and we are again pulled into it. You need to have the thought to save all sentient beings, and when you are free with the strength to save others, then we can say, you are actually doing the practice of Bodhisattva. And also in place like Tibet, when they have the diamond vehicle, after people die, through the concentration and also observation,
어디로 가서 태어나
they also make an observation where they are born, and they try to stop that if they are born at the wrong place, and also they also try to lead them to be born at a better place. There are also people like that.
그래서 중원
So at the part, so they say they will also try to help them at the part of state. If you,
달라이라마
well, as per the age, I have to die sooner than Dalai Lama as per the age. But he says since he's going to die at 108, well, I think I have to die sooner. Then will he help me when I'm at part of state?
바로도 상태였지.
Well, when you have the 49th day of prayer, you're actually helping them to be born at a born better.
건강성에서 얘기하는
Well, this is essence when it's spoken about in diamond vehicle. Well, I told you many times. You go through samsara. When you go through samsara, you have hell, you have the animal's life, heaven, humans, and depending on your karma, you keep taking rounds. And but if you're born as a human, well, it's a time when you actually have a short life amongst the samsara. Well, it may be longer than animals, but then animals, where animals they live only for like 15 years, but they have very short period of time that they are alive. But until it takes very long time for you to realize or recognize if you need to be free from it. And people, as humans, they have the shortest period of life amongst who goes through samsara.
그 영화
But when you see on TV, even in places where the ice is frozen, you have the holes, and sometimes and also through the hole, the polar bears also do fishing, just like how. Just like the hole, when you're born as a human, you're at the part state of samsara, and this is the best time for you to be enlightened, to be freed. Why is it so? At this time,
바로 알아찰 수 있는 정지 기능이 바로 알아찰 수 있는 이성 기능이
at this time, we have the logical mindset through which we can realize.
정지 기능이 이때 생겼어.
That's
인간이 때
not even the hungry ghost or animals or heaven or even the hell, they cannot do it. Only human can do more than any other places.
다른 오도의 때보다
We have more potential to be awakened or gain enlightenment. That's why you can only become Buddha when you are as a human. And Bodhisattva, since you are trying to serve all sentient beings, it's possible at any level. Being born as a human and living your life, this moment is just like the place with which you breathe in the eyes. So
인간으로 태어난 것 자체가 다 무지하게
you have to think that being born as a human is a really, really, really precious thing. So don't waste it.
그 허비하지 마라 그 말이야.
And when someone is
그 사람이
dead, you know the bardo for 49 days. When a person dies,
이 사람이
the 49 days of bardo end.
이 49일 바로도 하고
Among samsara,
이 육도 윤회하는
the bardo when you're born as a human, they're similar. So after we die, the state of bardo,
우리의 바로도 상태는 인간으로 태어났을 때 육도 윤회의 바로도로서 깨칠 수 있는 가능성이
just like when you're born as a human, you have way more potential. Living as a human, and when you die and being born to next life, this bardo is also like 9 times. It's about 9 times faster. So when you die, please recite the mantras together and do it together. But because you're always dark, because you're not thinking of it from the point of view of the death, because it's your big uncle, or because you go to church, then I feel very bad. Well, I want to go and tell them something, but it's just like a dream for them.
요건 내가
Well, this is not my experience of death, but
내가
this
회사에서 모시는
this was experience of someone who lives who came from Gwangju, and she was dead for 2 hours, and she came back to life, and she was very well. She woke up in about 2 hours, and after 15 days, she told me, I was a student among then. She said she walked a very big path, and she always had back problem, but her back was not even hurting. I always went to get her medicines, and everyone was going one path, but it was really peaceful and really comfortable. And she saw a monastery, and she heard the sound of mantras reciting, and she told me, you're the one who beat the gong, and you prayed, and you did Dharma Sutra. And I said yes. And when I asked, was it not very good? And she said, that's not it.
그게 아니고
And she heard it as if it's a sound from the heaven. When she was passing by the big road, she could hear it. And when she woke up and when she thought about it, it was my voice. But before you fall into the total unconsciousness for about 3 hours, you can hear it. And after that, once you're born, at your side, if they're fighting over your property, and if there's a trouble, you can hear it all. And then they will not give it. And deep within, they can hear everything and think that you're a really big thief. If you're crying and also if you're talking about so many things, even that one, it doesn't help at all to that soul. It only complicates the soul. So now, as a human, amongst the samsaras that we go, just like the breathing hole, this is the best opportunity for you to save yourself. That's why it is said that it is difficult to be born as a human. And when you're born as a human, it's difficult to be born as a man. It means here the man doesn't refer to like only the gender, but someone who is great, who is mighty. If you're only counting money every evening, then that's the only thing that you would see. And if you do, and only if you're looking at your savings book and giggle about, well, that's also not very. Well, you know, those people, they always come to monastery and pray that they could earn more money. And how can they learn about teaching? It's all just like a stone. It's difficult to be born as a man, and also it's difficult to meet the Buddhist teaching. Well, even in Korea, it's difficult to meet Buddhist teaching. It is easy to meet the wrong or fake Buddhism. You can meet the superstitious beliefs very easily. And I also heard that there are more than 1,000 people in Yosu who believes in superstition. Many different sorts of superstition. It's very easy to meet something wrong or something bad. In Yasu, when I walk down, everyone has their balloons. They have their bamboo and they have their flags. And it's written dash dash or dash dash Bodhisattva. If there are as many numbers of Bodhisattvas as is written in Yasu, then Yasu would be the best place in the world where human beings can live. But they claim themselves as Bodhisattvas, but they cheat on people. And so it's difficult to meet the Buddhist teaching. And even if you have met the Buddhist teaching, you relying on teacher to get rid of all your greediness. That's also a very difficult thing. But that too is the thing that's only possible when you're at Bardo state. When you are at the human, even if we are born in the heaven, it's very difficult. They only try to hide things, but For them, they don't even have suffering, so they don't even have the aspiration to study. And since they live about 30,000 to 40,000 years,
오래 산다는 생각 때문에 이게
they don't even have fear of death.
겁도 없다고.
And so at the time of death, they turn out to be all like human. The clothes they wear out, and if they walk around, the clothes they would just fall off. And they never even had like something blocking them. But it blocks your eyes. It never even comes off. Even the mucus.
떨어지질 않는다.
They say it's more difficult at the time of death.
나는 요즘에 그걸
Well, I think being sick is also kind of a merit.
아무리 끼면 똥 때린다고. 응? 자주 아파서 하면
If you keep falling sick, then you also think that, it's about time for you to die. So if you die, after you're quite sick, then sometimes I think you could also get immune to it. So I think it's also quite good to be sick. Isn't in it's also said in one of the sutras that do not hope to be not sick. Where the sayings of Buddha, even if you turn it upside down, it's all about practice. When you look at his teachings, even if it's upside down, it's all merit. And also, even if it's the other way around, it's also all merit. So being born as a human, think of it as your best opportunity. And many wrong things and many ill things that you have done so far, just think that it's time for you to change now. There is no other way other than this.
그 방법밖에 없어.
Even from now.
지금부터라도.
I say this quite often. In this life, you're at this moment is the time when you're at the youngest. But it could be that you are oldest amongst the time that you have lived. But from the time that you're going to leave, you're still at your high school. Isn't it so? Who sang this song?
이 세상 모두 뭐 그런 노래 있죠, 그죠? 어? 이 세상 모두 우리 거라면
This you have to think of it as your high school days.
이거 시절이야. 지금 그래
Although your knee hurts, you can still sit down. Although your back hurts, it actually gets better if you're sitting straight up. Even your eyes, it's a little blur, where the letters are still quite big and it's quite legible now. Nowadays, it has become a little better. During the Korea time, when the light was even not bright, nowadays it's very easy to get books and it's also bright. Compared to olden days, everything is more adventurous, advantageous, and so if you compare it to the time when Bodhisattva had his own practice, we are at more at ease. How could his disciples could not even see his teachings online? Now we are at more advantageous platform. Even those of you who are watching this online, answer me. Can you hear the sound of yes? You're so good at lying.
거짓말도 잘한다.
I cannot hear it.
안 들리고. 보살은 속박을 갖다가
When you have wisdom, if you don't have means for Bodhisattva, we say you are bounded. And also, when you have the means, if you don't have wisdom, that's also kind of bondage. Two of them, it has to roll together.
두 가지가 같이 굴러가요.
Where someone has also said before, today I'm so angry.
오늘 뚝 따거나 죽었습니다. 그래서 황소불이 나는 한쪽 바퀴를
Well, I fixed one wheel of my car, but on the way the other wheel got wrong. And
보살도를 행하는데 지혜가 없다고 지혜를 열심히
when you are practicing the Bodhisattva, it seems like when you are practicing Bodhisattva, when you have completed wisdom, you don't have the means. It seems like that. The means that has wisdom, the wisdom that has means. We say that is enlightenment, and we also say that's Nirvana of non-abiding. That's the way how a Bodhisattva should live. Let's stop here.